Esther and Mercy were sisters, but not just any sisters. Esther, the older one, was 24 years old, while Mercy was 19. They lived in a small peaceful village in Nigeria, but their hearts always longed for something bigger, something more exciting. They both dreamed of a life full of luxury and wealth. They wanted to live in a big house, wear expensive clothes, and travel to faraway places. Hello everyone, my name is Adugo and you are watching the African Tales channel by Adugo. Before we dive into today's video, please kindly click on that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, let's get into the story. One day, news spread through the village about a man named Benson R. A wealthy businessman who had recently moved into a mansion on the outskirts of their village. He was known for his riches, his fancy cars, and his ability to provide anything anyone could want. He was kind, but there was something mysterious about him, and people whispered that he had many secrets. Esther and Mercy heard the rumors and they couldn't stop thinking about Benson. Both sisters secretly wished to marry him, but neither of them knew the other felt the same way. It wasn't just about love. No, they both wanted the wealth, the power, and the comfort that came with being Benson's wife. One evening, Esther sat on the porch staring into the dark sky. Mercy came to join her, and after a long silence, she finally spoke. "I heard Benson is looking for a wife," Mercy said softly. "What do you think of him?" Esther's eyes narrowed, but she forced a smile. "He's rich, that's all that matters, right?" she replied casually, though inside, she was already planning how to get him for herself. Mercy looked at her sister suspiciously, but she didn't say anything. Deep down, she had the same feelings. She, too, wanted Benson to marry her. The idea of living a life of luxury, of never having to worry about money again, was too tempting to ignore. The next few weeks were filled with strange events. Esther and Mercy both found reasons to visit Benson's mansion, but they tried to keep their visits a secret from each other. Each time one sister went, the other would find an excuse to do something else. But it was becoming harder to hide their intentions, and the tension between them began to build. One day, while they were both at home, their mother noticed something strange. She saw the way Esther and Mercy looked at each other, their eyes filled with something that wasn't quite sisterly. It was jealousy, and it made her uneasy. "You two need to talk," their mother said one afternoon. "This rivalry between you isn't healthy. What's going on?" But neither sister could admit what was really happening. They both wanted Benson, and they both wanted him so badly. Neither of them was willing to step aside. As the days passed, they both tried to outdo each other. Esther began wearing her best clothes whenever she knew Benson would be around. Mercy, not to be outdone, began practicing how to speak sweetly, hoping to catch Benson's attention. Benson, however, seemed completely unaware of their rivalry. He was always kind to both sisters, but he never seemed to show any special interest in either one. Esther grew frustrated. Why wasn't he noticing her? After all, she was the older, more sophisticated one. She was the one who had experience, who knew how to talk to men. Mercy, on the other hand, was younger and more innocent. She thought she had the advantage because she was fresh and full of energy. She believed Benson would be drawn to her sweetness and charm. One evening, both sisters found themselves at a party thrown by Benson. It was a grand affair with music, dancing, and laughter echoing through the air. Esther wore a beautiful dress that hugged her curves, while Mercy wore a simpler, more delicate outfit that made her look youthful and graceful. Both sisters knew this was their chance to win Benson's heart. As the night wore on, they found themselves standing next to Benson, each one trying to get his attention. They laughed, they joked, but Benson only smiled and nodded. He didn't seem to favor one over the other. This only made their rivalry worse. They began to argue in whispers, each one accusing the other of trying to steal Benson's heart. "You think he will choose you, don't you?" Esther hissed, her eyes full of venom. "Well, you're wrong. I am the one he wants." Mercy's face turned red with anger. "You've had enough. You are always trying to be the one who gets everything. But this time, Benson is mine." Before they could continue, Benson turned to them with a soft smile. "I can see you both want to talk to me," he said gently. "Why don't we go for a walk?" Both sisters were caught off guard. They hadn't expected him to take them both seriously. But now, they had no choice but to walk with him, side by side, neither one willing to give in. As they walked, the tension between them only grew. Esther wanted to tell Benson everything she felt, but she was afraid that if she did, Mercy would do the same. Mercy, on the other hand, was afraid that Esther's charm would win Benson's over. Benson, however, seemed completely at ease. He listened to both sisters, asking them questions and showing interest in their lives. But even though he appeared kind, there was something about him that didn't sit right with either of them. As the night wore on, both sisters began to feel uneasy. They had both hoped for something different, but now they were unsure of what Benson really wanted. And the more they learned about him, the more mysterious and complicated he seemed. Little did they know, Benson had his own secrets, and they were far more dangerous than anything they could have imagined. The days that followed were filled with more tension between Esther and Mercy. They couldn't seem to get Benson off their minds. Everywhere they went, there were whispers in the village about how they were both trying to win his heart. Everyone could see the rivalry, but no one knew the lengths they were willing to go to for him. One morning, Esther went to the market to buy some food, but her mind was elsewhere. As she passed the stalls, she overheard a conversation between two women talking about Benson. They said something that caught her attention. "Did you hear? They say Benson has been having strange dreams about two beautiful sisters who are fighting for his heart," one woman whispered. Esther's heart skipped a beat. Was it possible? Could Benson really know what was happening between her and Mercy? She couldn't believe it. She thought he was oblivious to everything. But this news made her think differently. That night, she went home with a plan. She would find out what Benson really thought of her and Mercy. But first, she needed to know more about these strange dreams the women had mentioned. Maybe they held the key to winning Benson's heart. Meanwhile, Mercy was feeling just as anxious. She couldn't stop thinking about Benson's kind smile and the way he listened to her. She felt a connection with him, but there was always something in the back of her mind telling her that he wasn't just a simple kind man. Something about him was different, something mysterious. Mercy decided to visit the local herbalist, Mama Ayo, who was known for her wisdom and knowledge of the supernatural. She hoped Mama Ayo could tell her something about Benson, something that would help her win his heart. Mama Ayo's small hut was tucked away on the edge of the village. The air around it was thick with the scent of herbs and incense. Mercy knocked softly, and the old woman opened the door with a knowing smile. "Come in, child," Mama Ayo said, her voice as soft as the wind. "I knew you would come. You are in search of something, aren't you?" Mercy nodded, feeling a bit uneasy, but determined. "I need to know about Benson R. Is there something strange about him?" Mama Ayo studied her for a long moment before speaking. "Benson is not like other men. He is caught between two worlds. He is a man of great power, but that power comes with a price. You must be careful, my child. What you seek may not bring you the happiness you hope for. Mercy's heart raced. What did Mama Ayo mean? She pressed further. What does that mean? Can he be trusted? Mama Ayo's eyes darkened. There are many things you do not know. Some truths are hidden, even from those who think they know it all. If you choose to continue this path, you may find yourself lost, entangled in something you cannot escape. Mercy felt a chill run down her spine. She thanked Mama Ayo quickly and left the hut, her mind swelling with confusion. Was Benson really as innocent as he seemed, or was he hiding something dark and dangerous? Back at Esther's house, she was having her own moment of realization. She had found out that Benson had been visiting a wise old man in the village, someone known for his spiritual knowledge. This man, known as Ogifying, was rumored to have powers that could influence people's fates. Esther wondered if Benson's mysterious behavior had something to do with this man. The next day, Esther decided to follow Benson. She watched from a distance as he visited Ogifying's house. Disappearing behind the walls, Esther's curiosity got the better of her, and she snuck up to the window, trying to listen in on their conversation. What she overheard shocked her. Benson was speaking to Ogifying in a low voice. "I can't choose between them," he said. "Esther and Mercy are both perfect in their own ways, but there is something about this rivalry that makes me feel trapped. I can't keep this up much longer." Ogifying's voice was calm. "The spirits are watching you, Benson. You must decide soon. One of them is destined to be yours, but the other, well, the other may not survive this competition." Esther gasped, but she quickly covered her mouth to stop herself from being heard. Her heart pounded in her chest. What had she just heard? Was it true that one of them might not survive? As the days passed, both sisters grew more desperate. They continued their attempt to win Benson's affection, but something was shifting. The tension between them was growing, and it was starting to feel like their rivalry was spiraling out of control. One night, after another heated argument, Esther and Mercy finally confronted each other. "You heard it, didn't you?" Esther said, her voice trembling with anger. "You know we can't both have him. One of us has to win." Mercy's eyes were filled with tears. "I never wanted things to get like this. I just wanted a better life. Is that so wrong?" Esther's face twisted with frustration. "We both want the same thing, Mercy, and only one of us will get it." As the sisters stood face to face, neither willing to back down, they were unaware that Benson was watching from the shadows. He had seen them arguing, and now he was more certain than ever that something was wrong. He had to make a choice, but the choice wasn't as simple as he had thought. What had started as a harmless rivalry between two sisters was now becoming something far more dangerous. And as Benson's mysterious powers began to grow stronger, both Esther and Mercy were about to find out just how high the stakes were. The following day, tension hung in the air like a thick fog. Esther and Mercy barely spoke to each other, each lost in their own thoughts, knowing that everything had changed. What had started as a simple desire for Benson's wealth was now something much darker, something that could tear their family apart. Benson had been watching them closely, but he was no longer the kind and charming man they had first met. There was an unsettling coldness in his eyes whenever he looked at either sister. Esther, with her pride and determination, had begun to realize that Benson was not the man she thought he was. And Mercy, innocent as she was, could feel that something was slipping from her grasp, but she couldn't quite figure out what it was. That night, as the moon hung high in the sky, Esther stood at her window, staring out at the vast expanse of the village. She had to know the truth. She had to know what Benson was hiding and what his connection to Ogifeanyi meant for both her and Mercy. She couldn't shake the feeling that Ogifeanyi was a key to understanding the strange hold Benson seemed to have over them. Desperate, she made up her mind to confront the old man. It was time to stop playing games. Without telling Mercy, Esther slipped out of the house under the cover of darkness. She walked swiftly through the village, her heart racing with both fear and excitement. The path to Ogifeanyi's house was narrow and winding, the moonlight barely enough to guide her. But Esther was determined. When she arrived, she hesitated at the entrance. The door was slightly ajar, and she could hear voices inside. One of them was Benson's. "This is getting out of hand," Benson said, his voice low and tense. "The sisters are on the edge. One of them will break." "You said you could help me, Ogifeanyi. But I need to know, will they really hurt each other?" Ogifeanyi's deep voice answered calmly. "The spirits have already spoken, Benson. This rivalry has reached a point where there can be no peace. The one who wins your heart will have to make a great sacrifice. It is the way of the spirits." Esther's breath caught in her throat. Sacrifice? What did that mean? She had to know more. Quietly, she pushed the door open a little further and stepped inside. She stood in the shadows, hidden from view, and listened intently. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, making the room feel even more mysterious. "You must choose soon," Ogifeanyi said, his tone serious. "The rivalry will escalate. There are forces at work here that you cannot control. It is already too late to turn back." Benson's voice trembled slightly. "I don't want either of them to get hurt. I just want peace. I don't know if I can handle this anymore." Esther's heart pounded. Was Benson really afraid? She hadn't expected this. She had imagined him as someone in control, someone who knew exactly what he wanted. But now, it seemed that he was just as trapped as they were. Suddenly, she stepped back and her foot hit a small stone, causing it to roll across the floor. It made a soft noise, but it was enough to alert them. Benson's head snapped towards the door, his eyes narrowing. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice sharp. Esther froze, her mind racing. She had been caught. There was no way to hide now. She quickly moved towards the door, but before she could escape, Benson was there. He grabbed her arm firmly, pulling her back into the room. "What are you doing here, Esther?" he asked, his voice now cold and distant. She couldn't answer right away. The truth was, she didn't know what she was doing. She had come to find answers, but now she was caught in something much deeper than she had expected. Ogifeanyi looked at her with an unreadable expression. "You should not have come here, child," he said slowly. "The spirits do not take kindly to those who seek knowledge they are not ready for." Esther felt a chill run down her spine. She wanted to leave, but she was rooted to the spot, unable to move. She had already crossed a line, and there was no going back. Benson stepped closer, his face now full of confusion. "I never wanted to hurt either of you," he said softly. "But this is not just about love. It's about something bigger, something none of us understands. The spirits are watching all of us. And you." He paused, looking at her with a mixture of guilt and pity. "You may not like what you find." Just then, Mercy appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide with fear. "Esther, what's going on? What did you hear?" Esther turned to face her younger sister. She could see the same fear in Mercy's eyes, the same confusion. They were both standing in the middle of a storm they didn't understand, and now it was too late to turn back. Mercy looked at Benson and then at Ogifeanyi. "What's happening? Why are you two acting like this?" Benson shook his head, his face clouded with regret. "I wish I could explain it all, but I can't. All I know is that you both need to make a choice, and you need to make it soon." Esther and Mercy exchanged uneasy glances. They had no idea what Benson meant, but they knew they couldn't go on like this. The rivalry, the jealousy, the strange dreams and the spirits. It was all too much. But the question remained, would they be able to live with the choices they were about to make? Or would it tear them apart? As the night deepened and the tension grew, the truth about Benson's power, the spirits and the sacrifices that had to be made was about to come crashing down on both sisters. The silence in the room grew thick like the heavy weight of the air before a storm. Esther and Mercy stood frozen, staring at Benson and Ogifine. The tension was unbearable and neither of the sisters knew how to break it. What choice were they being asked to make? And what would it cost them? Benson took a deep breath, his face a mixture of frustration and helplessness. "I never wanted this to happen," he muttered. "But the spirits have decided. The rivalry between you two, it's not something that can be fixed easily. One of you must win my heart, and the other will, well, the other will have to walk away." Esther's heart dropped. "What do you mean walk away? What does that mean for us?" Mercy, who had been standing at the doorway, her eyes wide with fear, stepped forward. "Benson, please, I don't understand. What have the spirits said? What happens if we don't choose?" Ogifine's voice echoed in the silence. "The spirits are not kind when they are ignored. They are not patient with those who play with love and power. One of you must leave, but the cost of this decision is much higher than either of you can imagine." Esther and Mercy exchanged uncertain glances. They were trapped, caught between a powerful man and the mysterious forces that seemed to control his fate. Neither of them wanted to walk away, but neither of them was prepared to lose Benson either. It was a game they didn't fully understand, but they were playing with everything they had. "I don't know if I can do this," Esther said, her voice shaking. "I don't want to hurt anyone. I have already lost so much." Benson stepped closer to her, his expression softening for the first time since they had met. "Esther, you don't have to lose. You just have to decide. The spirit will show you the way." Mercy, still feeling overwhelmed by the events of the night, took a step back. "I don't want to hurt anyone, but I love you, Benson. I need you to help me. Please help me understand what's going on. What do we have to do?" Benson looked at both sisters, his eyes filled with regret. "I wish I could make this easier for you, but the spirits have already spoken. There is only one path, and it is up to you both to choose." Ogifine's gaze moved between the three of them. "The spirits are waiting, but they are not patient. Time is running out, and the longer you delay, the greater the consequences." Esther's head spun. What was happening? What was she supposed to do? She had always been the one in control, and one who made decisions without thinking twice. But now, she felt helpless. Was Benson worth it? Was he worth the pain, the rivalry and the sacrifices? Mercy looked at her sister, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "Esther, maybe we should just walk away. Maybe we can find another way. We don't need to hurt each other for Benson's love." But Esther could see that Mercy's words were more about fear than love. Mercy wasn't ready to give up on Benson. She wasn't ready to walk away, even if it meant walking into the unknown. Esther's mind raced as she thought about the choice before them. The rivalry was tearing them apart, but walking away wasn't an option. Not when they had both come so far. She couldn't let Mercy win without a fight. But could she win without losing herself? "I won't let go of him," Esther said firmly, her voice determined. "I won't walk away. I will fight for him. I have to." Mercy's face crumpled in sadness. "But Esther, what about us? What happens to us, to our sisterhood?" Esther's heart ached at the thought of losing Mercy, But the decision was already made. There was no turning back. Benson, who had been watching them, suddenly stepped forward, his face conflicted. "I don't want this. I don't want either of you to be hurt. But the spirit won't let me go. They won't let any of us go." Just then, a loud crashing sound echoed from outside the hut. The door flung open with a force so powerful that it shook the walls. In the doorway stood a figure, cloaked in shadows with eyes that glowed like embers. It was a woman, her face hidden beneath a hood, but her presence was undeniable. She stepped forward slowly, and the air seemed to grow colder with every step she took. Ogifani raised his hand, a look of surprise on his face. "You? What are you doing here?" The woman didn't answer immediately. She simply stared at the group, her eyes piercing through the dim lights.